Hey there, tech enthusiast. Get ready for Tech Ties and Human Vibes, the podcast where technology in the AI era meets the human touch.
You are listening to another episode of Tech Ties and Human Vibes, here with myself, Adam Nelson, and Nancy Henriquez. And we have a guest today, and his name is Chris Marocchi. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing, where you've been, what's going on in your life?
Absolutely. I'll give you a little bit of background, a little bit of history where I'm coming from. For the past 10 years or so, I've been involved in the world of consulting with manufacturing, distribution, construction industries. And that career path led me to the sales of ERP solutions about 2 years ago, kind of specializing a little bit more in that space. Still working with small to mid-sized businesses as I have been for the past 10 years, still acting in a role of more sales consultant as opposed to just strictly sales. And I'm actually transitioning from one VAR or ERP partner to a new one. I'll be starting with a company called Net at Work on Monday, which is a much larger VAR and reseller of a solution called Acumatica. So I'll be moving over there in the role of an account executive and looking forward very much to all the resources and capabilities provided by that company.
So you're throwing some acronyms out there that I would like a little clarification on. I'm sorry. What is an ERP?
Hey, don't worry, Adam. That's a very common question in my world, and happy to clarify that. I don't know if the answer is going to help too much. Enterprise resource planning, software.
You're right. It didn't do anything for me.
But in layman's terms, it's software that makes up the backbone that most companies use when they're running their businesses day to day, the accounting systems, the CRM. You've probably heard of QuickBooks. You know how companies use QuickBooks to manage their finances and accounting. Think of ERP as the next step up from QuickBooks with more sophisticated capabilities in terms of reporting, forecasting capabilities, managing inventories, and even going as far as to manage orders as they're processed as they come in from the customer, being able to track shipments, tracking inventory in real time, and CRM, et cetera. It's just a more integrated suite of different software solutions, all working in harmony to help a company manage its day-to-day operations.
So I'm going to ask another question because I might be a little bit more confused. What is then the difference between an ERP and an MSP?
Yeah, good question. An ERP is just a little bit more comprehensive, where an MSP tends to focus more on. I'm sorry, MSP is what your question is?
Yeah. MSP, a managed service provider.
Managed service provider is typically a company that's providing IT support services, from anywhere to helping a company acquire computer equipment, laptops, getting them set up on Microsoft and all the different tools that they might need to run their business on more of a local individual basis. And they might provide other additional services like cybersecurity and IT help support, those kinds of things. Whereas an ERP is a more sophisticated database that companies will use to run those accounting functions and accounting features. So a company might still have Microsoft, 24/7 set up on their computers and still be running off that daily software, whether it's Microsoft Word or Excel, and using all those functions, and still need to access and log into the ERP system to perform some of those more complex functions, like managing accounting, sending out invoices, receiving orders from customers, etc.
So when it comes to the way that I like to think about it is the MSP is the service provider, the ERP is the brains of the operation, right? That's where all of the company's data would come into play. And um, almost like for MSPs, the ERP systems for them are the PSAs. Look, all
Hmm.
the acronyms that we're going to throw out there, right? So how they
Yep.
manage their business on a day to day aspect of it is more so of the ERP systems. So, like when I had my MSP, we used to work with several ERP systems that we helped our customers not manage per se, but we were the liaison between what would be the ERP providers and the customer in order to provide that support since we spoke the same language.
Yeah, I can give you a good example of how we work with MSPs because we would be the company I'm going to work for, Net at Work, is a VAR, value added reseller of a few different software platforms. And so Net at Work as a VAR would be on the same par, kind of the same level as an MSP. We would be working together. We don't really work against each other. We work more in partnership. And an example of that is in my former company, we worked with a small importer exporter of clothing, women's fashion clothing, importing products from China, but they would do all the designs. The products would be made in China, then shipped over here, and then they would distribute then throughout the United States. And the way that we were brought into this particular customer was from their MSP. Their MSP had been with them for 20, 30 years and was supporting this company on an antiquated ERP system that was built specifically for the apparel industry about 30, 40 years ago. Now, this software was so antiquated that the company was running it off DOS.
Oh, wow.
And you can imagine how difficult it was for this MSP to provide that support. They had literally one machine in the whole company that ran DOS to run this software. And so the one person that had that machine, she had access to all the data, information, and reports. And anybody else in that company that needed access to that information had to go to her to get it or to pull a report. And so the MSP came to us and said, please, can you help us sell to this company the idea that they need to upgrade their ERP system to something more modern, something that's cloud based, so that everybody in the company can now have access to it. They can all see the same data. They can still input whatever relevant information they need to and can pull reports, shipping data, et cetera, at any given time from any workstation within the company.
You
Huh.
said something that were really interesting, and it's a situation that I've seen so often, and so I want to ask your perspective on that, which is oftentimes what I've seen when it comes to manufacturing businesses, they tend to be outdated in their technology, or they tend to wait very long time before moving on and implementing new systems. Would you say that that's something that's accurate that you've seen as well, or do you see that slightly differently?
100%. That's what keeps me employed. Um, and so, what we come across most commonly is a lot of manufacturing companies, and you're absolutely right, are using outdated technology. And we find they fall typically into one of two categories. Either they're running off QuickBooks or something comparable, or Excel. I've actually come across companies that don't even have QuickBooks, they do everything in Excel. And they've been doing so for 30 plus years, and it's worked up to a certain point, but it's limited in terms of its scalability. The second scenario is a little bit more like the company I just cited, where they're using legacy ERP software that is outdated and is limited in its capabilities and capacities, and also oftentimes limited in terms of its user licenses. One of the advantages to the software I resell, which is called Acumatica, is that Acumatica offers unlimited license usage throughout the organization. And I love that because any junior, analyst or accounting person or person out in the warehouse can access the system and input data or pull data out of it and without the company having to incur additional user license fees. Acumatica has a slightly different model in which they charge more based on consumption or the number of transactions that are performed by that company. They feel that's a better measuring stick of how a company should be billed rather than the number of users. They'd rather that everybody be using the system rather than having limitations. So you have companies using antiquated legacy systems, most often with a limited number of seat licenses. And so you have a limited number of people that can access the system, again, which holds them back from scalability. And in terms of automation and process optimization, they're typically held way, way back because those systems are so old, they don't really support modern standard operating processes.
So
Oh yeah.
I want to back up like really, really far. Uh, Chris, what got you involved in something like this? Like, why would you want to do this?
Going back about 10 years ago, I started in a regional sales management role with a consulting firm that supported small to mid-sized manufacturing companies throughout the state of California. Now, this particular company received federal and state funding in support of its mission, which was to provide these kinds of consulting services specifically to small and mid-sized manufacturers. And so, as a nonprofit organization with that mission of helping these smaller companies develop the resources and acquire the kind of technologies they needed to help them grow. So, our suite of consulting services span from everything from automated, software types of tools, including ERP systems and other software, all the way through lean manufacturing, helping them achieve quality certifications, or just basic training and helping them develop leadership capabilities or other project management or other types of skills they would need to help that company be more successful. So we were out there selling consulting services, a very broad swath of different types of services to help these companies. And what I noticed over time is that, exactly like you guys have said, most of these companies were lagging way behind in terms of technology, whether it was ERP, even cybersecurity. A lot of these companies in aerospace and defense and other industries, they come up against cyber protocols that are requirements by the Department of Defense. And a lot of these companies don't even know that they're in violation until they start getting notices from the OEMs in the defense or the aerospace industry. When Boeing sends out a letter to them and says, we're going to cut you off as a supplier unless you become compliant with the latest cyber policies that we've put into place. And so there's a great need to help these companies develop some sense of awareness of how far behind exactly they're lagging in terms of their technological capabilities. So when I left that company and was faced with the decision, where do I go next? Do I continue in this consulting role where we're kind of very broad based? Or do I look more toward an opportunity where I can kind of fit a little bit more of a niche in providing technology services? And where I landed was in this space of selling ERP solutions, because to me, that represented one of the largest opportunities that exists out there for these companies really to be able to take the next step forward to help them to grow and scale up their businesses.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting that. Bringing in the expertise that you had in terms of consulting, seeing the problem or an underlying problem, really, which is a lack of innovation when it comes to the technology space, and then bringing a solution to that. Love that.
Ha- How have you found yourself trying to promote what you do to clients, potential clients, I guess I should say?
Well, I'm somebody who values networking and being out in front of people as often as possible, which is one of the reasons, Adam, I was so grateful for you reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to participate in a podcast. It's only the second one I've ever done.
Oh, well,
And the first one was just 2 weeks ago. So having this platform is a wonderful way for me to kind of share and repost what you're going to put together later and share that with my network. But I belong to some networking organizations. Provisors is one that I'm a heavy participant in. They're a national organization geared toward networking, people that participate in professional services, all the way down to something like what I do, get together in what they call home groups, and we're able to talk to like-minded individuals within our industries. Some of the groups have more of an industry focus, so those that focus more on manufacturing and distribution, I attend those group meetings as well and tell them about what I do and offer up my services so that anybody that's in that room, if they have a client that has needs that fall into the category of ERP or technology, they know they can call me and either get advice or maybe even bring me in as a partner to help them offer a solution to their client. So just participating in any kind of organizational events, whether as a speaker, participant in a podcast, or networking. There's probably 3 or 4 different networking organizations that I belong to. And I leverage those opportunities really to try to identify potential referral partners who might be able to refer me into one of their client scenarios and vice versa, where I might be able to bring them in to partner with me and offering what they have to offer.
See, that's something that I definitely love in terms of hearing different technology professionals, knowing that no matter what area of technology you're in, we're still in a people business.
Mm-hmm.
And so partnerships is something that is crucial in that sense. So our wider audience are MSPs. How would you say that MSPs that you could collaborate with MSPs and vice versa? How could they collaborate with you, especially when it comes to, at the end of the day, helping the end user, which is the manufacturing companies or small businesses and things like that?
Another great question. Within my providers groups, for example, there are many MSPs. And so I run into those kinds of folks all the time. There's also an organization here in Orange County called SMB Tech Fest, which is a gathering of MSPs from all over this area. Actually, some come in from out of state to participate in a 2-day event, kind of an industry event that has presentations throughout the 2 days, breakout sessions. There are booths where people are kind of educating others about their services and capabilities and what they do. And that's a series that's held quarterly. I love to attend those SMB Tech Fest events and interact with other MSPs because I can hear from them and listen to what they have to say about the pain points that their customers are experiencing and learn a little bit more about what's happening out there in the industry because they're the first line of defense, right? They're out there interacting and dealing with their customers day to day. And it's an awesome opportunity for me to listen and learn a little bit more about what exactly their customer base is experiencing. Then it gives me an opportunity to maybe kind of tailor my service offerings to them and let them know how I might be able to help them solve some of their clients' problems, either through technology or just through some consulting ideation. But yeah, I think anytime I can collaborate with other MSPs, I look to do so because I see there's a lot of synergy potentially between what we offer and anything I can do to offer additional solutions that's a little bit outside of their level of expertise. Typically, they don't get too involved with ERP system selection and implementation, and in which case they look to lean on a partner, somebody like me, that they can bring in and bring that level of expertise when the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, shout out to Dave Siebert. We
Yes.
know Dave, so shout out to Dave for sure. And it is a great event to attend. Adam and I have both attended several times as well, so I love that. One of the things that I love to talk about or to really dig into when it comes to how MSPs should be working with their clients is digging more into the ecosystems of their clients. So I love the fact that you are saying the right things in the sense of partner with someone that knows, that has the expertise to help them select the right software for them, especially as if the MSP, if you don't know, if you're not aware of that, that's something that you can lean on other partnerships and be able to gain that expertise into your bubble, right? When it comes to that, and be more part of the ecosystem that their customers have or are in. 'Cause there's plenty of opportunities even within that for additional partnerships and referrals and all of that. I like to say it's more like, you know how doctors have specializations and
Mhm.
they have such a rich referral network because of those specializations. And so, very similar to that, I think that MSPs working with someone like you that knows has that specialization in ERP systems and is able to come in and say, this is how a manufacturing company should operate, right? Comparatively speaking to someone that maybe is on legacy systems. That is fantastic and something that an MSP should be able to leverage you for, right? Like that is awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I belong to one of the networking groups I belong to, and I'm on the board of, is called the SoCal IT Roundtable. And there are two really strong MSPs in that group. One caters to smaller sized clientele. They're the one much larger, more, enterprise sizing. And I love partnering with both these companies because I can refer clients to either one, and they're very clearly delineated, so it's easy for me to make referrals. And two, they make also good partners for me to work with because their clients encounter those types of challenges that we can provide some value and help out with.
So what would you say is something that, as an MSP going into, these small and medium-sized businesses that they should be looking out for in ways to be able to add value to their clients by calling someone like you? Like, what are some of those key things that they should be looking out for?
I think the role of any MSP is to be really in tune with their clients. And I mean, and more than just what the clients are telling them. So my first recommendation would be, every so often, maybe do a small business review with them, or just ask them a few questions. How are things going? What kinds of challenges are you facing? And it could be anything from finding the right employees, to hire and fill certain positions, to technology, to tariffs and challenges they might be having that are external to the marketplace. But if they're asking those kinds of questions, or if their client is bringing up concerns to them directly that relate to challenges they have with their existing technology, we usually tell people keep an eye out for these kinds of challenges or problems. Inventory management. Their inventory is growing, and they're no longer able to manually do physical counts. This client that I mentioned to you earlier, that is an importer from China, they have inventory in a warehouse in Los Angeles. They physically count it once per year, and that's it. They don't know how much inventory they have during the rest of the year. They tell me that on average, there's about $50,000 worth of inventory just sitting there that they don't do anything with. And before you know it, they're selling that stuff on pennies on the dollar because those styles and fashions are outmoded. But if they had a system that could tell them exactly what they have right now, if they're to pull up a report and you have X number of these and Y number of those and these different sizes, cuts, and colors, then they could go back to their customers and say, hey, we can sell these to you. Or maybe we sell them at a discount to someone like Ross, but you're selling it for 50 cents on the dollar instead of 10 cents on the dollar. So it just gives you the power of knowledge to enhance your decision making. So inventory control is one thing. Compliance is another. I already mentioned compliance with DoD and aerospace, but there's all different types of there's medical device companies that have to be compliant. There's also food and beverage companies that have you know FDA and other MSP, other types of GMP other types of audits that they have to go through every year. We have a client in Mexico who's a candy manufacturer, and they ship 100% of their product back to the United States. They operate as a maquiladora in Tijuana.
Oh, I
But
thought you were gonna say they send them directly to me. I love Mexican candy. That is
I'll put you in touch with them. They do an awesome job, and their candy is delicious. And they're getting into the nutraceutical gummies. You know, the ones that have healing properties, or there's suckers that are good for cold remedies and that. So they've got some of these different healing properties in them. So now they've got nutritional compliance that they have to adhere to and meet all the U.S. federal standards for compliance. They go through 7 different audits every year, and their number one concern when they came to me was, Chris, we have to not shut down operations, but their whole quality team basically has to shut down while they uh, assist in these when the auditor comes. So they're pulling documentation, they're looking for paperwork, for files to gather everything together. It might take a week for them to complete this audit to satisfy the reporting requirements that auditor brings to their company. And because some of these audits happen back to back or within their busy season, it just is crushing their productivity and their capacities. So their biggest concern that they expressed with me was, is there a way that we can capture all this data inside of the ERP system such that when the auditor comes, we run a report and just hand them the report and we're done? And that's exactly what we've set up for them through this software called Acumatica, is a solution that captures the inputs from the weight, the quantity, the size, everything that they're producing gets entered into the system, and then they can just run that report and print it out when that auditor comes. So instead of a week-long process, this can now be narrowed down to a number of days. So you've got aerospace compliance, you've got medical device, you've got food and beverage. Any kind of industry that gets regulated that way is going to have issues and needs that are compliance related that can slow down their operations, but an ERP system can help them manage that much more efficiently.
How do you see, I guess, AI in the future for an ERP?
That we're just starting to see the majority of the bigger named ERP systems start to infuse AI into what they do. In my opinion, I think they got off to a little bit of a late start. I would have liked to have seen this happen a year or two ago and not just now, kind of getting out there. But they are starting to use it. A lot of it's helping, of course, with their, help bots, when people call in for customer service, help tickets and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't really consider that AI, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't really count it. They should have had that already to begin with.
That should have been 5 years ago.
And that's my point. So they're like, hey, we have this now. I'm like, yay, technology.
That's a chatbot.
Yeah, chatbot. And then the second thing is they're helping with search queries. So that's kind of like one of the later iterations. And that's helpful. It does help speed up and help refine when you're looking for certain reports or certain data within the ERP system. The AI assist with those queries can help. Where I see it going in the near future, though, is helping with the document creation or the population of data inside. Someone's creating a new sales contract, for example, or a PO, to see the auto population of those documents. I want to see a little bit more in the forecasting, AI assisting with forecasting and reporting. So when companies want to try to forecast what sales might look like or what their material order needs will look like, they can use the AI capabilities within that ERP system to give them better, more accurate forecasting, maybe a little bit more simplified and faster return. When somebody's looking to create something, they can use AI and do it very quickly instead of having to build that report and use their own intelligence to kind of construct the components of that report.
I'm sure that it will also be useful with accuracy and those kinds of
Yeah.
aspects of it as well, especially when it comes to any kind of inputs or checking human inputs and looking for errors and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely probably happening more so now than in the future. Is helping with the accuracy of it. I'm excited to see what else is going to come out of. I think the applications of it are almost limitless. But in terms of what I've heard as defined, this is what you're going to be seeing within the next year and a half. That's what I'm hearing.
Year to year and a half. Wow. They really are far behind.
Yeah.
I mean, a year to year and a half in the world of AI is like 10
Yeah,
years.
you know, and I don't know why that is. I my guess is they're still busy. There's so many enhancements that go into some of these ERP solutions. They're constantly refining and adding and refining capabilities. So I think their core concern is making sure that the core product improves
Yeah.
and operates even better than before. And they're, bringing in an AI team to kind of enhance that overall performance, but it's happening slowly. So you're not seeing any kind of maturity whatsoever on the AI part of it, because I think their emphasis is still on the core solution itself. But again, I think this is going to change dramatically over the next couple of years.
Well, Chris, if I'm an MSP or just a company out there that would be interested in contacting you and furthering the conversation of, how we could work together, where do they go? How do they find out about you?
I think the best way to contact me for now is on LinkedIn. And I'm kind of a unicorn on LinkedIn. There aren't a lot of Chris Marockis, but as long as you're spelling my name correctly, you're going to be able to find me. I'm based here in California. The name of the company is Net at Work. And if you'd like to reach out to me or just ask a couple of questions, find me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to chat with you.
Okay, and I'll put your name and I'll make sure the spelling's correct for the in the description, just so you know.
I
Not to
appreciate
be
that.
confused with Meraki of Cisco.
Not to be confused with that one.
Oh, man.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for being here with us and for talking to us and letting us know a little bit about what you do and the ERP systems that you work with and that you help manufacturing companies with. Anything else that you would love to tell our audience before we end the episode here?
I would just add that when I say, contact me, or if you know somebody else that's in that space, contact that person. Go to the experts to get advice on ERP solutions. They can save so much time and hassle for you. Don't research it yourself. There's so much information out there. Just reach out to somebody you know in that space, and I'm sure they'd be just as willing as I am to help them, kind of point them in the right direction at least, because there's a lot of information out there. And by talking to somebody that has a little bit more expertise can really save you a lot of time and trouble.
I would agree with that. I would agree on anything in life, right? If you're going to do it, go talk to somebody who knows what they're doing before you go down that road.
Yep, there's plenty of things that I can't do that are done in the MSP space that I will call my MSP buddies all day long to help with, rather than try to figure it out myself. So it's a two-way street for sure.
Well, like Nancy said, thank you very much for joining us today. And
Thanks for joining us today on Tech Ties and Human Vibes. If you'd like to keep the conversation going, exclusive tips from our speakers, and more, head over to the community at sibylcommunity.com.